Good evening. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of The Wright Experience. I'd like to welcome you to the 104th episode of this show. And I have indeed a very special guest tonight, a person that I consider to be a good friend of mine as well as an amazing colleague. This guest that we have that we're about to bring has served as a state superintendent of the year and also served on a committee to advise her state's Board of Education. She is finally at the point of transition into retirement, and we're so happy to have her on the show and looking forward to hearing from her in this episode. My guest is Dr. Valerie H. Bridges, Superintendent of Edgecombe County Public Schools in North Carolina. And we'd like to welcome her at this time to the Wright Experience. Well, hello there.
How are you doing? Good
You
to
know,
see
you look really, really, really happy. And I'm trying to figure out, is that just the normal Valerie Bridges, or is this a little bit more special because we're about to retire and start a new life? Which one is it?
I think it's some of both.
Okay.
I am a happy person and I enjoy life.
That's right.
Regardless of what's going on, I believe that, there's some good there. And so I always try to look for what's right. So some of both. And the transition is a little bittersweet. So yeah,
Sure.
I'm sure I'm happy about that. And then some days I feel a little down about it, which is kind of a strange feeling, but it's been a long journey.
And you've dedicated some amazing work in your career as superintendent for sure, but also your career in general. So take a few moments and kind of walk us back through your career and the things that you've been able to accomplish during your tenure in public education in general, and certainly as superintendent.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Wright, I am finishing year 34.
Okay.
34 years, not just in education. I started in accounting and auditing. And so I started with the North Carolina Department of Revenue and then the State Auditor's Office, where we did audits on state agencies. From that, I transitioned to become a high school teacher. Was high school teacher for a few years. And then my assistant principal at the time really kept riding me and convincing me to go into administration. And it took a little convincing, but I did decide to do that and went back to school, became an assistant principal, from assistant principal at a middle school, and then became a principal of an elementary school. From principal of an elementary school, I became a director of student support services and middle grades education, assistant superintendent, associate superintendent, both for curriculum and instruction, and then superintendent. I've been in 4 districts. So I started in Wake County as a teacher, Guilford County as a principal, Washington County at the central office level, director and assistant superintendent, and then Edgecombe for assistant and associate and superintendent. And so it's been a great journey. Have enjoyed a very rich career. Even before becoming superintendent, I've always shared with people, I've had the most beautiful career that I could ever dream of having. And I didn't necessarily plan to become a superintendent, but it did work out that way. And it's been a great experience. For 6 years, I served as superintendent in Edgecombe County Public Schools.
6 years. I was thinking about that. I thought it had been, I had you at between 5 and 7. So that you hit right in the middle. Okay, great. So tell us a little bit about the transition. What is it like? What are some of your days like now? Maybe some hints into some next steps, or are we just going to cruise on a cruise ship for 60 days and then think about it later, or what?
Yeah. So transitioning, I shared with the board in May that I intended to retire. I wanted to give them enough time to be prepared and not rush. And so I certainly offered 90 days, which is September 1. And so was willing to, if I needed to leave sooner, if they moved the process along, it wouldn't be a problem, because I wasn't taking another superintendent position. So I shared that with them, shared it with our senior leadership, shared it with our district leadership team, the principals, assistant principals, and then shared it with the community. And so the transition, I will akin it to breaking up with somebody you're still in love with. And so I
Okay.
love Edgecombe. And but there comes a time in your life, in your career, in which you know that it's time to do something different. And so people told me, you'll know when it's time, you'll know when it's time. And I didn't really believe that, but you do know when it's time. You get that little feeling. My mother turned 80 this summer. My grandson goes to middle school this year, and I've had no career regrets. And I certainly didn't want to have any. And so I really had to sit down and do some soul searching. I spent a lot of time during spring break this past year thinking what's next for me? What do I want to do? What is, kind of looking at the scope of work in Edgecombe and feeling very satisfied with we were moving in the right direction. We'd gotten through COVID. We'd had some other experiences and things that happened. And I felt like I have built a really solid team. And so I thought, if you don't do it now, after 34 years, your mother is 80, your grandson is in middle school, what exactly are you waiting for? And so, it was time to transition. And so I decided, let's do this. Let's make it happen. I wanted to go slow and steady. I didn't want to do 30 days, 45, 60. I said, let's do 90. That gives me time to get used to the idea and for people to mentally get a transition. 6 years. I am the first female superintendent in the Edgecombe County Public Schools. I say that not necessarily proudful. I shouldn't be the first, but I am the first in 2017, first female superintendent. I hope not to be the last, but that's kind of where we are. When I think about the transition, as soon as I started mentioning it after it became, in the community they knew, then it was people started reaching out and asking questions. What do you want to do next? What are you thinking? I don't have a laundry list of things that I have planned to do. All the things you mentioned, the travel, and all those things, I kind of guide my life: God, family, career. And if we're honest, when we're superintendents, it doesn't always go in that order. Because if the school system calls, if something happens at a school, if something happens with families, they often come before our families. And that's hard. And so you have to have a spouse who understands that, and a family who gets that process, that you have to be there for the school system. And it was just time to put my family first. If we're being honest, just put them first. Be at the cookout, be at the function, be there on time, be deeply engaged, not on your cell phone, not checking on what's going on with maintenance or something happened with the kid or a school. Really being there. If you're at a basketball game for your family, not looking at your phone or feeling guilty because you're not somewhere with the school organization. So really being able to let your hair down, breathe deeply, enjoy life. We know life, every day, days are not promised to us. And so you have to just kind of make that commitment to your family. And that's what I decided to do. As far as work after superintendency, I think I probably will do some coaching. I've had a couple folks approach me about coaching. I'll do some coaching. I love talking with new leaders, helping support them. If I can share a tool or resource, or just an experience to help you be successful, I'm all in for that. I probably would do it for free, but if you're willing to pay me to coach, then that's even better. So I'll probably do a little coaching, and then spend a lot of time with family and friends. But I don't have an agenda set to say I'm going to do A, B, and C this month. I don't want to necessarily live like that. I've lived like that for my whole career. We all have, right? Where you got to be somewhere, you got to show up, you got to be ready, you have to be prepared, you have to be over prepared. And I want to let my brain relax a little bit and just decide what time does my body feel like. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're making this thing sound mighty good. I still got a few years.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. And when we give and do the things that we're having to do, called to do on a daily basis, it must be nice to know that you're very close to being able to have some time for you and like you said, your family. I just figured out that I'm going to miss a cousins of mine's 60th birthday celebration because we got something going on that day. And I get it. I get it. But hats off to you for getting to the point where you have successfully served in a superintendency, and now you're ready to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So I think that's commendable and amazing. Dr. Bridges, while I have you here, there seems to be a lot of turnover, change, particularly with superintendents of color lately. We've got, I don't know, 3 or 4 in the state of South Carolina in the 14 months that I've been here. In the state of North Carolina, I can think of another 3 or 4. And not that superintendents of all races are not being let go or resigning because of no choice, but but yet you and I guess I can put myself in that category. We have been able to survive the superintendency for at least twice as long as the average is. You 6 years, I'm in year 11. What do you think that we could offer to people, perhaps who are people of color, who are assuming these superintendencies, to not only just survive? I don't think survival is enough, but how can they be successful in superintendencies?
Yeah, so great question. And certainly, I've seen the statistics as well.
Sure.
These are dear colleagues that, one day they're in the superintendency, they're installed, things seem to be going well. And then less than 3 years, many of them are either experiencing a buyout or being asked to resign. So a number of things. You never know really what's going on behind the scenes
Sure.
in someone's contract, but it does seem like a phenomenon of African American leaders, especially leaders in school systems, seem to be losing their positions at a higher rate than others. And so it is disturbing. We have students in North Carolina. We, of course, need to have leaders of color. Students need to see leaders of color, whether they're Black students, brown students, or white students. They need to see leaders of color. And so I do think it's alarming. I think that I certainly won't get into the numbers because I want to make sure I'm accurate about that if I say the numbers. But I do think it's something worth researching. I think it's something worth checking into. And I think, that may be some work that I choose to do when I'm not a part of that, having to maintain and manage a school system. What I'll say is I think the political arena, whether it's the community, whether it's local, whether it's your school board, whether it's your state. I think all of those things can bubble to the top quickly. I think that superintendency is a very difficult position anyway, right? Mm-hmm. Most people's children go to school. They go to the doctor. They don't question the doctor. They will question the teacher. They will question the principal. COVID did not help. I think it gave some insight for parents into schools in a way that we've never had in this country, where parents were helping with the process because they couldn't be in school, and they began to believe that they were doing the teacher's job or able to do the teacher's job. I had some relatives that I had to correct and
Sure.
say, "You're not teaching. No, no, the teacher is teaching. You are helping your child get online, making sure they, stay focused in class, but that's not the same job as a teacher." And so we laughed about it, and they know that I'm going to stick up for a teacher or an educator as much as I can. But I think there's been a little bit of a little disillusion around who's actually doing the work and the value and worth of the work. And so I do think when we think about leaders of color, understanding the political groundwork that you're in, understanding strategically how to navigate situations, there always will be issues. There are going to be concerns. There will be parents who are not happy about certain things. There will be principals who are not happy about certain things. And you whatever number of board members you have, I have a friend that has said, if you have 7 board members, consider yourself to have 8 board members, because that 8th board member is social media.
Uh-huh.
So you have to be careful with that. There are people who tweet and text and do all sorts of things, and you have to be careful with that. And so you have to think about, if what I'm texting, what I'm tweeting out were to be on the front page of the paper, would I want it there? Sometimes you'll have a school board that elected you, and then that election comes around again, and that school board dynamics can change. You didn't change as a leader, the board changed. The happiest moment you're going to have is with the board that elected you. After that, everybody else, well, this is not my guy or my gal, I didn't pick them. So sometimes they kind of chip away at what's going on. I also think that over time, and sometimes it can be a year, it can be 6 months, you have to make some hard decisions. And there will be a faction of people who are not happy with the decision you made. Some will be reasonable and realize we had to, whatever the choice was, a decision had to be made. The superintendent used the information that they had available, and they made the best decision for kids. Everybody is still not going to be happy about that decision. And some folks hold on to that. And then that next time when you have to make a decision, they're still holding that last decision against you. And so you, as a superintendent, you keep taking these punches. You keep taking sometimes negative comments. We are human. You can hurt our feelings too. We might be tough. We may be leaders, but it starts to wear away at you, and it can be very hurtful. It can be make you feel bad. It can make you not trust people. It can make you do a lot of things. And if you're not grounded, you just having a strong family, faith, it can tear away at you and make you make some mistakes that you typically wouldn't make, because you're questioning yourself, and you're try to please people rather than doing what is right for children. And once you make decisions that favor man instead of children, you're in trouble. You're on your way to trouble, and you don't even know it. And so I've tried to, and I know you as a leader have tried to make sure I make decisions based on what is best for children. That's the first line. And if you choose to not like Valerie Bridges, then you have to just not like me. But I'm going to do what's best for children. And that's what I'm going to stick on that side, not the political, that doesn't matter to me. What is best for the children in Edgecombe County? And that's what I plan to do.
And that's breeded you that success over the years. The fact that you've been rooted and grounded in doing what's best for children. I think that's words to live by for anybody that's going to do this work nowadays, because it is extremely political. There are a lot of things that are thrown at us, no matter who we are. It just seems to be a lot more Even the 11 years that I've served as superintendent, I think it's become considerably more political now than it was in 2013 when I started. So, Dr. Bridges, your amazing 34-year career, we talked about that already. What are some things that you are most proud of? And then maybe talk to us also about one or two of the challenges, and you can do them in however order you want, but just want to hear some of the highlights and challenges of your career.
Yeah. So over my career, some of the challenges, I'll start in Edgecombe because that's the latest. In Edgecombe, we're a high poverty district. I don't
Sure.
say that as an excuse. I say it as that's the station in which we're in, right? We
Sure.
recognize that there's something called the roadmap of need. And when you look at the roadmap of need in North Carolina, Edgecombe is, um, I'd say, in the top five or bottom five of anything that is maybe not desirable, and then the bottom five of things that you want to have in your community. And that's alarming. That breaks my heart. And that breaks my heart. And I, that those are challenges that we have to deal with. So, child poverty, worrying, being concerned about children becoming, having children, um, school violence. Lots of those things happen as a result of poverty. And so those are some of the challenges. Is we of course, our job is to educate children, but we also have to figure out a way to, how do we support families, how do we help them to have opportunities? Because I can have your child all day and we can work on these skills and we can kind of get you school ready and make sure, but if you then return home to dysfunction and you return home to issues, every day we're starting again. And again, they are children, and so they will succumb sometime to their environment, and that's hard. So we can't just be, you come to school, we're going to make sure things are right for you, but then your community, we're afraid to go down your street, or we're afraid to talk to your mom or dad. It can't be that way. You have to connect. It has to be a family environment. And so those are some of the things that have been challenges. Those are real things, whether they're Edgecombe or in other communities. Edgecombe may have a more concentrated population of high need or high poverty students and communities. So that's one challenge that we've had. I think also in Eastern North Carolina, hiring teachers, getting folks in, keeping quality teachers is difficult. We will often get new teachers in, beginning teachers, get them trained up, do the professional development, and then once they've had a couple years under their belt, sometimes they will decide, I want to be in a bigger city. I want to be in Raleigh. I want to be in Greenville. I want to be in Greensboro, and they may transition somewhere else. They've cut their teeth with us and gotten better, but then they move on to where there are other amenities in cities where they can have, they're young people and they want to have, just a little bit more fun that might be available in Eastern North Carolina. And that's what happens. They don't decide, I'm going to drive into Raleigh. They decide, I'm going to move to Raleigh or Durham or Cary. And then, we've done the training. We've gotten you ready. But then, and so we often have beginning teachers that continue to come in, and we are always in training mode. And if you're always training, a percent of your staff, that can wear you out. That can be quite daunting on your HR department and on your principals and staff members. So those are two challenges that I have experienced. But it makes you stronger when you
Right.
can do that work and you can still smile and you can still enjoy. You become real creative, you become innovative because you have to. You have to figure out problems that large districts or districts that do have quite a bit of funding don't have to figure out. We have to figure out ways to make things happen in Edgecombe that other districts don't have to think about.
And yet you've done quite well with that. What about some proud moments?
Yeah. So we've quite a few. We pride ourselves in Edgecombe in being, we say we're the little school system that keeps on surprising people. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we'll pull out our stops. We look at models. We do a lot of inspirational visits. So we look at models of other school systems and what they're doing, what's working. We know that if there's a school system maybe in DC, that it might not work just exactly, and we can't emulate it, but we can tweak it and make it work in Edgecombe. So we do a lot of visiting school systems, finding out what's working, how do you make things work for your kids, and tweaking that. We created a micro school several years ago. The tenets of that micro school are still in place on the north side of our school system. We've seen like just been able to see kids grow and really develop. We've also have a second early college. So we have our traditional early college. We opened up our second early college this school year, the 23-24 school year. Is Edge Academy. It's in Rocky Mount, and it's for health sciences. And so we're really excited about that. Just trying to make sure we have partnerships that students can leave and be in the health profession. We're excited about that. And I'm going to tell you a little secret, Dr. Wright. So this is not official because data is not official until September 6th.
Okay.
But you're such a great person. I've got to share this with you.
All right. Sounds
So
good.
coming into Edgecombe in 2017 as the new superintendent, it was congratulations, Dr. Bridges, you're the new superintendent. And by the way, our school system is now low performing according to Department of Public Instruction. So
Uh-huh.
this school year, 22-23 school year, our students and our staff and our principals performed well enough that we will no longer be a low performing district. And so I am so proud of
I
them.
am going to give
Yeah.
you all a round of applause for that. That's
I
big
am
news.
so proud. Yeah, I'm so proud of them that we were able to lose that distinction. Um,
Absolutely.
and we know it's not fair. That 80 and 20% is not fair, but we were able to come out of low performance. And it won't be official till September 6th. And I won't be the superintendent then, but I will celebrate with them because that's
Absolutely.
quite an accomplishment.
And you should. And I'm gonna celebrate with you too. We'll call each other and celebrate over the phone. How about that?
Thank you. I
Because I
appreciate
know
it.
what it's like. When I was in Hertford, same thing happened with us, and there's no greater feeling than to know that, as you said, your students and staff and everybody has stepped up and gotten that done. That's amazing work. And
Absolutely.
the next superintendent will be inheriting some amazing work that you all have done. And something that I did not hear you mention that I'm gonna talk about a little bit. You guys were kind of at the forefront of the advanced teacher roles
Ah,
work too, with
yes.
opportunity culture. I know that because we came and visited you all when I was in Hertford, and then piggybacked off of many of the things that you're doing. So a lot of wonderful work certainly has transpired under your leadership in Edgecombe County, and as you're transitioning out, we certainly are proud of the work that you have been doing, and being a resident of from Nash County, being next door, and having served in Edgecombe for some years. I certainly understand that your leadership has made that district even better, and so you're to be commended for that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about kind of a hypothetical here as we get a little further into this interview. Let's say that you have the opportunity to go back to the beginning of Dr. Bridges' ascent into the superintendency. What is something that maybe you know now that you wish you had known at the very beginning of your superintendency?
Hmm. Something I wish I knew at the very beginning. Um, I don't think I truly understood the time commitment.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. Yeah, it is a significant time
And
commitment for sure.
yeah, was what is tremendous. It's hard to really explain what that feels like.
Right, right. And because of that, sometimes we get we talk about 3 years is the average time,
Mhm.
for a superintendent in their tenure and so forth. And sometimes I think it is overwhelming to some of us, the time commitment and the weekends and the meetings that you have to attend, and all while, as you said, trying to make those decisions that are best for children. Yet, those of us that do it and have done it at an excellent level, it's still some of the most beneficial work that any leader can do. So I think I think that's probably the answer I would give to. I don't know that I knew that it was quite as demanding
Yeah.
as it is, especially outside looking in. When you're an assistant superintendent or if you're a principal, I don't think you really understand the time commitment and space commitment too. Sometimes that a superintendent has to live and deal with. Dr. Bridges, as we come to the end of our presentation, is there any other information, words of wisdom, et cetera, that you would like to leave with our audience? Anything else that you'd like to say?
I'd like to just remind people that you have to take care of yourself. It is
Absolutely.
wonderful to take care of other people's children, and that's the work we do. But if you don't take care of yourself, then you cannot be a good leader. You're not being a good community person, and you're not being a good family member. So take care of yourself.
I think I've heard you tell me that on the phone a time or two, haven't you?
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir, I have indeed.
All right. Dr. Bridges, if you'll hold on with me for just a minute, we'll come back and close out the show. My guest next week on the Wright Experience will be Dr. Nicholas King. Dr. King is a lifelong veteran school administrator at the school level as well as the district level. And he just recently assumed a new position as deputy superintendent in Durham Public Schools in North Carolina. So I'll have Dr. King on next week. That date is September 7th. 2023, 7:00 p.m. Looking forward to having him and talking with him on the Wright Experience next week. We are fast approaching, believe it or not, almost 3 years of doing this work. I'm absolutely excited about the direction that this is going on in. Very shortly, in addition to educational leaders, we will be expanding our portfolio even more. We've already had a plethora of different disciplines, but we're going to be expanding our portfolio even more to make sure that we become more well-rounded in the folks that we interview. We're going to also try to sneak Dr. Bridges back in every now and then to catch up with her and see what she's doing in this post. She's going to teach us how to live and enjoy retirement and still remain active and relevant in the education field. Did I say too much when I said that?
I'm willing to teach you. I'm gonna find out, and then I'm gonna share with you.
Okay. All right. Very good. Very good. Because it won't be long.
That's right.
Anyway, to the Wright Experience audience, I want to thank you for viewing our show and good evening.